that a pop song by some girl? It's like top.
Bum, bum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-da-da. It's Britney Spears.
Yes.
Yeah, Toxic. We're going to be talking about toxic relationships, how to identify them, and what to do if you're in one. Mended Light. So we work in helping people to have healthy relationships, and a big pet peeve of mine online today is the overuse of the word toxic. People throw that around when what they really mean is immature or unhealthy.
Or selfish.
But honestly within pretty normal parameters.
Yeah.
In order for something to qualify as toxic, it has to be, according to the Oxford Dictionary, it has to be corrosive, it has to be harmful in a pervasive or insidious way. It's a pretty high bar to clear. So how can you identify if the relationship you're in is in fact toxic? Well, we've got 5 different ways to identify a toxic relationship. But first, we're just going to have some fun. We're going to sit back and we're going to watch a clip from The Office, from the infamous dinner party episode. Michael is dating his former boss, Jan.
Oh, perfect.
It's a horrible, horrible relationship, and everybody's got trapped into going over to their house for the night.
How about a toast? Shall I? Here's to good friends.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
That is sort of an oaky afterbirth.
What was that?
So, music? Should we turn some music?
That sounds good.
Do you guys remember my old assistant Hunter? He is an excellent songwriter. Wait till you hear this. Okay, here we go.
You took me by the hand, made me a man. That one night, you made everything alright. So raw, so right, all night, alright, oh yeah, oh yeah. So raw, so right, all night, alright, oh yeah.
You know what? Hunter was a terrible assistant. That is why Ryan fired him.
Well, I think he's probably just about as reliable as Pam, being that it usually takes you an afternoon to get back to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think she holds on to faxes. I don't care what they say about me, I just want to eat. Which I realize is a lot to ask for. At a dinner party.
So they're giving a tour of their house, and we see that Michael sleeps on a tiny little hutch at the foot of the bed. He doesn't even sleep in the bed.
Oh, good.
The TV that he wanted has been taken off the wall, and he gets a TV about this big that is just on the wall that he has to stand up and watch. And Jan has absolutely taken control of his life. In fact, they fight over her controlling nature and the number of vasectomies and vasectomy reversals he has had at her behest.
Yeah, so there's definitely no control showing up, no manipulation. There's for sure space for both people's needs.
Right.
And safety and vulnerability.
I think you just did 4 of the 5, just rattled them off. So how can you tell if the relationship you're in is toxic? As you said, are there attempts to control or to manipulate? You mentioned that there's not space enough for both people and their needs. It's not safe to be vulnerable. And then there's also a component of rejection. And as Jan turns on the music that Hunter wrote about that one night, everybody knows who the song is about, and she's flaunting this in front of Michael. It's a form of passive-aggressive rejection. Now, I want to dive in just a little bit deeper into how toxic this relationship is, but I do this purely for educational purposes. I want to model.
Not for entertainment.
No, what a truly toxic relationship looks like. Speaking of control, Jan has been trying to get Michael to sell her candles to all of his friends as part of a pyramid scheme.
That's good.
Actually the reason for the dinner party. You talk about not space for both people. That's her art. But what he really wanted to have hanging there all along
was the St. Paul girl. So this is Michael pushing back.
Yeah.
He's like, all done with the dinner party.
Everybody enjoying their meal?
So it's a battle for...
Yeah.
How about we take the beer sign down until our guests leave and then we can discuss it?
No. I'm gonna leave it up. I think it ties the whole room together.
Okay.
So the passive aggressive of her being all,
Jan thinks Hunter's very talented. You know what? I don't think he's that good.
At least he's an artist.
BFD, I'm a screenwriter.
And I'm a candle maker, but you don't hear me bragging about it.
No, all you do is you get me to try to work on my rich friends.
For an investment opportunity.
Man, I would love to burn your candles.
You burn it, you buy it.
Oh, good. I'll be your first customer.
But you're hardly my first.
That's what she said.
His little TV's broken now.
That is a $200 plasma screen TV you just killed. Good luck paying me back on your $0 a year salary plus benefits, babe.
sad.
It's so sad. It's also sad in real life and not quite so funny.
Yeah, well, the comedy is meant to heal, you know, but yes, in real life that's incredibly painful. And in The Office, it's just this side removed of being just painful. Like they make it funny, but it's so awkward. The only episode that's worse is Scott's Tots. You might know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we've talked about these five ways to identify that you are in a toxic relationship. So Michael and Jan tick every box on the list, but let's do a little bit more of a deep dive on each one so you can tell if this is what you're going through or someone that you care about, and then we'll talk about the cure, what to do.
Because there's a difference between expressing needs and being considerate of your partner's needs that might be drastically different than your own, and trying to control your partner's behavior.
Yes.
And when I turn to you and I say how I feel is now your responsibility, and you have to change the way you behave so that I'm okay, that's a form of control. Right? When I put an expectation on you where you have to change something that's important to you, or your interest, or your hobbies, or be drastically different than who you are because of how I feel, that's a form of control.
I've seen this in relationships. I have a loved one whose spouse got embarrassed when they were doing line dancing at a family party because everyone was doing line dancing and it was fun, but the spouse was like, "Oh, this is awkward. You're representing us now. You can't go out and do this and just be silly. You can't and just cut loose." And that's an example of control. You can't be who you are if we're going to be together. You have to be after my image, the way I want you to be.
And what's underneath that is an insecurity, right? Of I have to show up a certain way, I have to be a certain way, I have to show I am a certain way, so I am worthy and I have value. And then I'm also projecting that onto my partner. It's a messy ball of yarn, don't get me wrong. And intent matters, right? Because there are people who intend to control so that they have power. And they get power from being the best or being good enough and someone else being less than, particularly their partner being less than. So intent matters, but it's not the only thing that matters. And that type of control is a form of manipulation. But the manipulation could come in a form of like, "Oh, well, honey, don't you want me to be happy? Don't you want me to be okay? Don't you want me to feel loved?" Right? And once again, I'm projecting onto you what you need to do, but I'm doing it in a manipulative way and I'm calling it love. And that isn't love.
Well, and we see in this clip, Jan is manipulating Michael when she turns Hunter's CD on. She's trying to stick it to him. She's trying to dig at him. She's trying to get him to fall in line with how she wants him to be. Otherwise, she's going to drive him mad with jealousy. And Michael is trying to manipulate Jan when he just pushes back and just hangs up his neon sign. It's jockeying for power, but it's also, are you going to continue the charade of niceness, or are you going to lash out? Either way, my friends are going to see how you treat me. And that's a manipulation in this case.
And how we respond to that control or manipulation may be to stop from being rejected, or we might face it with rejection, right? But that's quite often an underlying fear of rejection and abandonment. All of those things lead to not having space for both people's needs and not having safe places for vulnerability. Because in that environment, there's not a healthy way to express your needs or to have your needs met. And then if there isn't a healthy way to express your needs or have your needs met, there is no room for safety. And if there's not room for safety, you cannot be vulnerable. And if you try to express your needs or you try to create vulnerability in that environment, it is going to go terribly wrong. And you're going to be like, what did I do?
Yeah. How did this go so bad?
Yeah, there has to be space for both people's needs, and there has to be safety for vulnerability.
So how do you heal if you're in a toxic relationship, or how do you get out of a pattern of repeat toxic relationships? The first thing is to address your own inner belief system that contributes to you entering into these types of relationships. And that's the best place to start, because you can actually control what you think and how you perceive things.
We talk about this in a lot of our videos. We all come by our coping mechanisms, honestly.
Yeah.
And there is a good chance that one, you weren't even aware that these dynamics were toxic. And so first the awareness has to take place. But when that awareness happens, it's so easy to slide into self-judgment and be like, how could I be so stupid? Why do I keep doing this?
Yeah. What's
wrong with me? And then you see yourself as broken and then lose all hope for there to be any other option but brokenness. And so the awareness is critical, but with that awareness is also self-compassion. As you begin to understand how you got there, be compassionate with yourself. You got there honestly. You got there from a very real place. And this is where we're going to have the conversation again of what used to keep you safe may be keeping you stuck. And I've gone through this experience, and so have you, of seeing in adulthood how our behavior patterns in childhood, we created perceived safety for us.
Well, and to your point about compassion and releasing that judgment, we all do what we do for a reason. There are multiple reasons why people enter into toxic relationships or, keep doing that as a pattern. Some of the big ones are trying to recreate a situation where you felt a loss or where you felt a rejection, recreating it so that you win. And that's a very subconscious thing. Other times, you may believe the narrative that has been fed to you from toxic people of your worthlessness, of your inability to function without them. And so you look for people to take care of you, and you figure this is as good as I'm going to get, even if they mistreat me. We see this time and time and time again. One of the greatest ways to release yourself from these cycles is to recognize you have innate worth that no one can take away. And also, whoever you are capable of taking care of yourself. You are capable of surviving and thriving and connecting. And if anyone ever tells you that you can't without them, that's manipulation and control. But what if you feel like you can't? What if you really feel like you can't take care of yourself? You really feel like you're not worthy of connection and no one will ever love you. Recognize that that is a limiting belief. It is a subjective perception. It is not objective reality. And even if you have a gap to close between where you are now and where you want to be doing these things for yourself, you can do it. And treating yourself with compassion will help you to take the weight off and just assess, where are my gaps in knowledge, where are my gaps in support, and how can I fill those so I can move forward. If you have compassion for yourself, it's easier to step into that space.
So after you are solidly in that place of compassion towards yourself, the next step is to start releasing those untruths, those incongruent beliefs. So I talk about little T truths and big T truths.
Yeah.
Little T truths are things we believe are true, but aren't true. And big T truths are universal truths. And we've been talking about one this entire video, right? We've been talking about your innate worth, my innate worth, each individual's innate worth, that we all have it, right?
Yeah.
And if you've experienced a conditional love environment, which most of us have, which is, I'm going to show up a certain way, and I have to show up a certain way to find acceptance and belonging. And I'm going to exchange my authenticity, or I'm going to exchange who I really am, and I'm going to earn my acceptance and my belonging. So that puts me in a position where I'm earning conditional love. Conditional love is not real love. And what we want is real love, which is, I see you for who you are. I accept you for who you are. It is safe to be who you are, and you belong. That takes a lot of emotional maturity. That takes a lot of growth. That takes a lot of healing. That takes a lot of self-awareness of not projecting what I value and what's important to me onto everyone else and tying my worth to it as I project it. And so there's a whole process of dismantling and releasing those false beliefs, the incongruent beliefs, the untruths that we believe are true, and replacing them with the actual truth.
Well, and to that end, you've talked a little bit about what that looks like, but that is a process that is best undergone with a trained and skilled trauma counselor. Enter the Mended Light team. That's why we're here, and we want to invite you to schedule a complimentary 15-minute consultation with a member of our team to see what we can do to help you. We have an entire trauma healing program that is built out to guide you through this process to become the person that you want to be and live the life that you want to live. And the link for that is right here on screen, as well as in the description below. So, what we want to know from you, if you have ever been in a toxic relationship, what lessons did you learn and what warnings do you have for other members of our community? Let us know in the comments below. Or what about our conversation today was most helpful? Again, let us know right down there. Until next time, folks, keep shining.
We need your light.